It's time for Class Racing Today, the podcast for the NHRA class racing fan. Welcome back to Class Racing Today. As soon as I can push the right button, we'll get there. ClassRacingToday.com, ClassRacingToday@gmail.com. We are back again. If you want to help support the show, we appreciate all the support we get from the viewers and listeners just like you. We'll kind of steal something from NPR, from viewers like you. If you get value out of the show, you determine that value, turn it into dollars, send it back our way at ClassRacingToday.com. You can click on the donate button or just ClassRacingToday.com/donate. Brian.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube.
Oh, yes. So if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe today. We need to get that number up. The more people that interact with that page, subscribe, and hit the dinger bell button, the better rankings we get, just as it throws out to more people on the YouTube sphere. So that is certainly something we want to build up if we can. So all of your support doesn't cost you a thing except a little exertion of that button. Just push the button with your finger. It's simple.
Even if you're watching on Facebook, just start watching on YouTube.
That's true. Yes. Awesome. It is July.
Where did May go?
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know. I know you've been running about like a headless chicken.
I mean, it was a long time ago when we were in Rock Falls already, it seems like.
It does seem like that. How strange.
You remember? Well, you probably don't remember. Well, I guess you're younger than me, so I can't say that.
Barely.
When you were, like when you were a kid and school starts, it's like a whole year goes by before Christmas break. And then you go to Christmas break and you're all excited. You come back, it's like there's a whole another year of school
and then
before
school
summer
starts
break.
Again the next year. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Now it's just like flying by. Like races are cracking off and things are busy. And...
Yeah. Oh, another thing. Sorry, I just had a thought. We have a few people that prefer to support the show via the checkbook, and that is very doable. You can send support that way to our mailing address, 307 South Main Street, Millbank, South Dakota 57252. That's where the studio is located and where all that accounting takes place. So we appreciate all that support. Today we have a treat.
Friend of the show.
A friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
A friend of the show. We talked when we were in Rock Falls that we had failed to plan appropriately to do the inaugural episode of John's Kitchen, but that will come in. Johnny, it's 4-Speed Johnny McLaughlin. How are you?
Hey, good morning, guys. How you doing?
Fantastic. Welcome into Class Racing Today for the second time. Last time you were on the show, you were in studio with us, which was, I think you were the only, so far, guest of the show that's actually been inside the studio.
Really?
In the lair.
Yeah. So you're in a league of your own at the moment.
Yeah.
Just by looking at his background, I'd like to think we should go to his place for an episode.
No kidding. That car.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys having me on again. Brian contacted me late last night. I was actually returning from hauling some hot rods. So yeah, I got into, I'm actually at the toy shop here in Grand Forks this morning. As you can see in the background here, we got the Grandmaster sitting there, and I dusted off some of Wes's trophies from back in the 60s and 70s. So,
well, okay, give us a little bit of a little backgrounder on why you're there and what you actually do.
Oh, here at the toy shop. So yeah, I mean
the toy shop. Come on.
Yeah, my day job, if you will, is I build and work on hot rods. So, we work on a lot of high end stuff. Obviously, it's part of the Rydell organization, and so we maintain and build with Wes Rydell's fleet, and that gives us the opportunity to work with some of the premier street rod builders all over the country. We do a lot of work collaborating on cars with guys like Troy Trepanier and his great crew over there, and Chip Foose and the Ring Brothers and some of that kind of stuff. And we do some customer stuff. We're actually, the shop is in disarray right now, and we're in the process of moving. We renovated part of an old Kmart building to get some more space. And
That's so cool.
yeah, so
Is
yeah,
there a blue light special on Grandmaster?
yeah. No, I don't believe that car will ever be for sale. So
We
but
will have to once that's completed, we'll have to come up and do an on location.
absolutely,
Little bit.
it's going to be
That'd
a
be so cool.
really cool space and a really cool facility. It's not, you know, the room wise and stuff. There's things that we wished we'd have done different, but it's just something we thought we could do cost effectively and in a hurry. So, but Wes Rydell's foray into the street rod world started, well, really the high end street rod world started with that car, the Grandmaster in 2002. That car won the Riddler Award, and then there's been all kinds of stuff since. But his interest in cars started in drag racing. So he started drag racing in the early 60s. Obviously, here in the Midwest, used to race at Minnesota Dragway, which is now defunct. But he was at the first U.S. Nationals and went to the U.S. Nationals every year for 25 years. Got involved in what became Competition Eliminator, that class. Was kind of one of the trendsetters real early on. And so anyway, interesting stuff. But
it'll be fun to have him on the show when we're up there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's funny, for all the things he has accomplished, he's real shy about doing interviews or cameras, but I'll do my best to see if I can do that.
Come on, you got some months. Work on him.
Yeah, he is a fascinating interview, that's for sure.
That's cool.
So does the Grandmaster have a 4-speed in it?
No, it does not. And I tell you, I don't want to turn this into a show talking about street rods, but I do a lot of work on street rods. The majority of them have automatics in them. And I think, and then nowadays, you know, like just recently here, I've been working on a lot of cars that have 8 speeds and 10 speeds, and you're working on trying to tune these transmissions and trick the factory computers into doing what you want. And if everything just had, you know, Dominators and Jericho's way, life would be a lot easier for me. But I did. The first car I was working on this morning was a 66 Corvette with a 5-speed in it. So that's my kind of car, Brian.
Oh, beautiful.
We all know your fingers aren't happy without clutch dust on them. So
Right. Hey, I was thinking of that, by the way. I don't think I've adjusted my clutch maybe 3 times this year. I've been to 3 races.
Does that mean you haven't raced very much?
A little bit of both. Bit of both.
Well,
so you guys came over to Rock Falls. That was really cool, hey?
That was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. And then you, of course, fed us.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, no, next time we'll do a live from the kitchen thing with my daughter and I cooking. But no, that was a really super fun race at a great track. Track conditions were pretty frustrating on Friday and Saturday, with not through a lack of effort from the facilities standpoint. And then on Sunday, when the weather took the big swing and cooled down there, things definitely got better. So yeah, it was.
Oh, then, sorry, real quick. One thing that Brian mentioned to me is that because of my complaints and ranting on one of the other last shows right after that, they have addressed their speaker scenario, right?
Yeah,
but the lack of speakers.
No speakers on the starting line.
How strange.
Craig, your influence in the stock super stock community
is vast, right?
Right.
We don't want to.
We appreciate that. So
we don't want to give him too much credit though, John, because he'll literally have like 30-foot LED walls on every corner of the racetrack if you let his influence.
Hey, if you sell enough ad space, you're good, right? Sorry, go ahead, John. I apologize.
Oh, I was just going to say that the track came around really nicely, and it was actually, you know, crazy fast conditions for the Midwest this time of year. You know, the barometer was in the 29. So yeah, and I finally got my car dead hooking, and I was able to make it to the semifinals there before I managed to screw it up. So.
So were you as fast as the orange stick car that was running around?
Randy Shepard?
Randy Mans were you?
No, that's a league of its own, the Randy Mans car. I just felt good because on Friday and Saturday they were chasing the same traction issues that I was. So I usually they're so much better than the rest of us that it doesn't matter. But they definitely got that thing tuned in and flying like normal. So yeah, that car is literally in a league of its own. I was helping Lynn Engels some on his A-stick 427 4-speed Corvette, and we made some good progress with that car. That car has the potential to for sure keep Randy and Mike honest. I don't know if we can ever run with them, but we can sure could have a chance of keeping them honest, perhaps.
Well, if there's a Gen 4 not making it down the track, everybody else is having a bad day.
Yeah. No, and like I said, it was super fun on Sunday when the weather came around there and the track got a little tighter, and said my car was dead hooking, and my lights and my box score showed the result of that. And until I made a stupid tuning error there in the semifinals and turned it 002 red because I decided to put a little air in my front tires, I was on my way.
That's what you get for tinkering.
Yeah. Well,
if he can't touch the clutch, he has to do something.
Right.
I know. Well, I had changed it. I had made the right decision 2 rounds before that, and it worked good. But I don't know what I was thinking. So
just think if you would have gotten the pickup and went and picked up some cheese for the potatoes,
probably
would have won.
Yeah. No, I just felt honored to make it down and have the opportunity to compete with Mike and Jason there. They're 2 of the best, out there, obviously, and especially in the Midwest Class Racers realm. So it was super fun.
I thought it was cool to watch Bill Shepard's car work as good as, for that thing being fresh, pretty freshly built. He had that car really working good, and that was fun to see.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of cars there that were impressive. Ryan's blue Camaro, that thing laid down some really nice laps too, and he was driving the wheels off it there for a while. So
literally off of
it. yeah, impressive wheel stands too. But yeah.
No, it was a cool race. It wasn't probably necessarily the best for my productivity since then, but.
So what is the story, Brian? Is the engine on the dyno yet, or what's going on?
We're waiting for a camshaft, which should be here this week. So hopefully dynoing in the next week to 10 days. But you know how that is.
I got LS junk laying around all over out there.
Junk.
Send you down a camshaft.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a pile of giveaways.
You could literally go to Kmart and buy parts for one of those things, can't you?
Yeah. Most gas stations have them hanging next to the car chargers.
Right.
Was there any old leftover signage in that building?
What's that, Craig?
Was there any old leftover signage in the Kmart?
Yeah, there was.
Oh,
and
sweet.
I was going to take the big red K.
Yeah?
But I'm like, where am I going to store this thing until I want to do something with it? And then, funny story, and I honestly have no knowledge of this, but that big red K ended up in a city councilman's yard.
Really?
Here in Grand Forks. Yeah, true story.
Brian, James' head dad asked if you're going to be ready for Ottawa.
We're trying.
That's the goal anyway.
It's it might be a little sketchier than my run in St. Louis, but their bolts will still be warm from being torqued, I think, probably, if that happens. But I would love to go somewhere before.
Brainerd this weekend, Brian.
That cannot happen.
There's got to be a pickup sitting there in Millbank you can steal an LS out of.
John, are you going to be there?
Yeah. Yes, I am planning on going. I foolishly let myself get sucked away in work and didn't go to the divisional, so I definitely want to make it over to the Midwest Class Racers race in Brainerd there. Believe I've got a driver lined up for the wagon. Should be really nice weather. I love that racetrack. The facility is cool with the trees, and they got showers and a bar and a restaurant right there and a gas station just outside the gate. The track itself it's Brainerd. It's wide and smooth, and they prep the heck out of it even on regular weekends, and so the traction's always killer. So I really enjoy racing there.
So does your driver require a extension on the gas pedal?
No, I've got to de-breezy the wagon.
Right.
But I have that down to a science where I can do that in about 5-10 minutes now. So it's just a matter of taking the brace off from behind the seat, moving the seat back, taking the wood block off the gas pedal.
That was the best thing about looking in that car.
Yeah.
The gas pedal's this much farther forward.
Every time I think of that car, I think of Indiana Jones, short stuff, but he had the blocks on his feet.
Hey, you do what you got to do, right?
That's right.
That car, that thing's had so many different drivers. It's gonna have like quick attach pins for all to debreezy it. Everything's on a quick attach.
Yeah.
Yeah, just pull out the interior, put a new one in for every driver. I like it.
I think the total since just in the last 3 years here, I think I've had 12 different drivers in it. So, and Dennis Bremen, my friend from he won the consolation race in Marion in it. I think that's the only person that's won in it in the last 3 years. But it's a really good car and always goes rounds and it's just fast enough and leaves hard enough to be fun, but just slow enough that it's pretty low maintenance and I don't have to worry about anybody, doing anything silly and getting into an accident or something with it. So
it's significantly different to drive than a Camaro.
Yeah, I can attest to that myself. Yes.
I imagine
it is
that's
pretty fun though. People don't think a quote unquote slow car can be fun. Breezy went 1189. I think she went in Rock Falls there. That's with like a 150, 149, 60 foot time. Doing just a little, 8-inch foot high wheelie, and so at 60 foot's just good enough that it's kind of fun. And that 1-2 shift comes way faster than everybody thinks it's going to. But once you get in high gear, you got lots of time to decide what you're going to do at the finish line.
Well, and it's definitely a cool car. Like that's you can see who's taking pictures of you when you launch on that thing. Wave at the cameras.
Look around.
Of course, that's probably why I miss the 1-2 every single time. But
you hit it finally in your one round of eliminations there when you picked up like I don't know what was it, Brian, 3-4 tenths.
A lot, a truckload. Well, that'll be a fun race. That's Brainerd's always a great place to go, and they even got a little added money now this year. They second race of the Rock Falls, they decided to pay that out in this race, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Brian, I haven't had a chance to listen to the announcement that was on Facebook that Midwest Class Racers with Travis Sorky did there live, but where did that extra money come from?
The second day, the rain out, so they rained out the first day at CT Badger Classic, so they basically stuck that money into this weekend. So it's $2,200 to win, $1,200 for runner-up, $750 for semifinals, $500 for fourth, third round $300, second round win $150.
Yeah, and I did look at that, and I seen that should really make Bobby happy because they took most of the money and added it down the payout, if you will. They only bumped instead of making the to win $3,000 or $4,000 or whatever. They took that money and they put it towards the round money. So,
well, not to forget too, there's Billy Bucks there.
Yeah, what is it? $200 for dead on and a winning
$100 for going dead on. That's pretty cool. He does that.
Yep. And I believe there is a gamblers race on Friday as well, too. I was just talking to Doug Engels on my drive back last night, and I think there's a gamblers race on Friday as well. That's put on independently of Midwest Class Racers, but generally has a pretty good turnout.
There's a guy that's got his car working pretty good. That thing was honking in Rock Falls. I thought that thing was leaving and working really good.
It was. In fact, it was working so good that when he got home, I hope Doug doesn't get mad at me for sharing this, but he had some bent parts, so he had to get her to the chassis shop and get some things braced up a little better than was originally designed there. No fault of Doug's for sure, but that car is definitely going to be dialed in when he gets to Brainerd. So
he's got a pretty good chassis guy. I think that'll be a pretty good process.
Yep. No, I think Chris is going to get her dialed in for him.
Cool. So now we got Brainerd this weekend, and then the following weekend we have Rock Falls, right? Or not Rock Falls, Ottawa.
Yep. And Brian, I just seen last night. I don't have any information on this other than what I seen on Class Racer, but they've decided to not run that race quarter mile now and to run an 1/8 mile.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I posted the question on Class Racer last night. I don't know if anybody has answered yet as to why that is. I don't know if there's things that they're still working on at the facility or what the concern was, but they had announced that it's going to be 1/8 mile. I'm just looking here to see if anybody has answered the
well, if I do get there, I'd rather make the first few hits on everything fresh on a 1/8 mile track instead of a quarter, so that won't be
Yep, that'll work out good for a guy like you for sure.
don't need to test. We'll just go to eliminations and test her out. That's what we did in St. Louis. Well, that'd be cool, though. I think that track will be really nice and work good.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting there and supporting that track. And everyone that's been there says that the track itself, the starting line, is always killer. So timing equipment works really good. And yeah, I just pulled it up here, guys. Bob did answer me and said, yeah, safety is the main reason. They're still working on getting the guardrails completed down track in the shutdown area. So that makes great sense, and I'm sure we'll have the opportunity to race quarter mile there in the future. But this race is going to be 8th mile. But I hope they can have a great turnout, because that track is readily accessible for all the racers. It's actually would be the most centrally located track for Division 5 or the Midwest class racers there. So we want that. I'd like to see that race be a big success for sure.
Well, and I think that's the thing. Even the guys that just cried in their soup because it's 8th mile and canceled their plans, like, the more we come and support these tracks, the better they're going to get.
Absolutely. Yep.
If you want to see things stop or go backwards, stop going to the tracks you or maybe aren't optimal to what you think you should be racing down, and pretty soon we'll have to drive a lot further. So
yeah, that's why I get to the races as often as I can and travel to some silly places, but I'm sure glad I get the opportunity to do it, and I want to support the sport that has given me so much fun and joy over the course of my life. So
there's some pretty good racing this weekend. I guess I just want to touch on a few results. Numidia looked like there was some odd things happening there, but in stock we had Shane Oakes over Brent DeRock. Is that how you say that? Maybe that's it. Eastern. So that was pretty cool. Congratulations, Shane. I think he had some pretty good runs. Super stock. Let's talk about that. What is happening there? Larry Miller over Byron Warner.
Warner lost in Division 1.
What's even crazier is both Warners lost.
Yeah, I was just pulling it up here. In the semifinals, Byron had a bye, and Brian lost to Larry Miller. So Larry Miller has the real distinct bragging rights of putting it down on the Warner brothers. That doesn't happen very much.
He prevented the Warner and Warner final.
That I would have. That get the popcorn out. I'd have paid to see that one.
So, congratulations on that one, Larry. That's you're definitely laying out some good licks there, and it was you were really solid when you needed to be solid. So that was congrats on that. And I don't know if the moon's doing something weird or blood moon or what we're in this month.
It's the super moon this month, Brian. It's the biggest moon of the year. Yep. So that
last night was huge.
That must be why the Warners lost. That's only that makes sense.
So congratulations to everybody that races a Warner for the rest of the month. Oh, those are good guys. We just good racing. What else did we have going on? Woodburn, didn't we?
Yeah, so there was a double out in I believe Woodburn is Division 6. And so yeah, double divisional out there. I guess Brad Burton is still putting on a show out on the West Coast. I know, can anybody catch Brad Burton in the National Stock Points Championship this year, Brian?
Oofta.
So he was in a pretty good position with a bunch of races to go to yet, and then he goes to Woodburn and he wins the first race to add to his points total. And of course, he's not. I don't think he's actually in the lead nationally right now. Yeah, he is 518, and he's got 4 national events left to go to and 3 divisionals left to go to. So, yep. But
his closest competition's Mike Cotton.
Well, Mike could definitely put it down there. He doesn't have a lot of national events left to go, but I'd be more worried about a guy like Joseph Santangelo laying back there with only been to 3 divisionals. So it'll be fun to watch coming down, but Brad has had an impressive season to date, and would be the odds-on favorite, I would think, for a national championship in stock eliminator. I'll take him and give you the rest of the field. How about that?
Well, and there's something to be said for getting it into high gear like that, right? Like he's just, man, when you start cracking off and you're winning races and everything's going right, like there's momentum's behind you.
Yeah, I know for me personally, boy, especially when I'm at a race and I get 2-3 rounds under my belt and I've hit the tree teens and 20s, like I get on a roll. Then it seems like I can just go up there and hit it. I got a lot of confidence, and it's the same thing when you get on a roll for somebody like Brad through a course of a bunch of races. I would think you just go in there, you know. If you wanna be the man, you got to be the man, but you kind of get that pep in your step a little bit for sure, I think.
And how about the stock final at Woodburn?
So in the second race in Woodburn, yeah, Jody Lang was putting on a show in the L stock automatic.
I mean, he was 29, 20, 15, 27, 23, 003 in the final. Like,
so the most important, or excuse me, impressive part of that to me is being 003 in the final. You know, you see this even in the pros. A lot of guys get to the final and they'll be 30, 40, 50, you know, they don't want a red light, but Jody just keeps perfecting his game there and rises to the occasion. And yeah, 003 against one of the best guys in Ryan McLaughlin, who is another guy that has a legitimate chance with the amount of races he's got left to claim at a stock national championship, and is putting together an impressive season. So yeah, Jody stepping up to the plate.
Well, and you're talking about an L stock automatic against a double A factory stock double A car. Like,
yeah, in my opinion, I don't care what anybody says there. There ain't nobody really judging it, right?
I mean, you're talking
the speed difference there is 50 miles an hour.
855 against 1175. Like you're talking
155 mile an hour against 108. And I would say at 108, Jody had it on the floor in his L stock automatic. That's a pretty good speed for that car, actually. So, yeah.
Or wait, I thought the fast car always had the advantage.
I would argue that point to some extent, Brian.
Not when you're Jody Lang going 003. Like you just, I mean.
Yeah, I can't remember who I was listening to here in the last few weeks was talking about leaving off the clean tree being as much or more of advantage as having the race in front of you like you do in the faster car. So,
well, just reaction time difference. I mean, you're 003 against 061. Like it was over really kind of before it started. But in the same sense, being the slow car like that, you could have totally misjudged that and screwed that up. Like you still have to execute the plan. Like you could easily have given that away just as fast as you took it.
Yep. I'm assuming that Jody was dialed something that he thought was really safe there. That would have been my strategy.
Yeah, that would have been cool. So congratulations, Jody Lang, on that too. That was pretty cool.
Who won Super Stock out in Woodburn, Brian? Do you know?
I just changed screens. Come on, John.
Jeez, get it together.
Super Stock.
So it looks like Sean Core won the second race against Christopher Core.
Core on Core.
Yeah. So, Brian, I don't know. Is that father and son?
Which one did we have? Didn't we have one of them on? Which one was on here? Was it Sean? I don't know. One of our listeners will straighten us out. But
yeah, somebody straighten us out there. But that's super cool. The Core family there in a final double divisional in Woodburn.
I don't know if it matters at that point. You know, it'd be pretty cool just to, well, of course, you know my brother, so that probably would not be a very good final. But there's nobody else I'd rather beat than that guy. I guarantee if we went to flip, it would come down to, do you want to fight? No, I just want to flip. So I guess we all have nemesis in our own family, right? Yeah, I think that was the results there.
So Brian, one of the things I wanted to talk about that I didn't get a chance to talk about last time, and something that you guys have brought up on the show, always about getting people into the sport of class racing, stock, super stock specifically, and the cost versus bracket racing. So I think that's kind of why you said that you started the podcast, right, Brian?
Yep.
As somebody that, you yourself were fairly new to drag racing, and got exposed to class racing a little bit, and now you've been bitten by the bug, right?
It's terrible.
So is are you saying that it's less cost intensive than bracket racing?
The point that I want to make there, Craig, and I'll try not to go off the rails too much here, but the cost, the perceived expense of stock super stock racing. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously you can spend a lot of money stock super stock racing, but you can also spend a lot of money going fishing, or you can spend Brian.
Uh-oh. Careful.
Have you looked at what a boat costs lately?
I had a boat. I tried to become a fisherman.
Mm-hmm. So my point there is a lot of guys have a $50,000 bass boat, mm-hmm. and a $50,000 pickup to pull it, and they travel and they stay in hotel rooms, and they've got every reel and the clothing, that whatever, and right. Yeah. So whatever the sport and your passion is, you can spend a lot of money on. Brian, how much money do you got invested in hunting clothing and rifles and shotguns?
My wife might be listening to this, so we're gonna say about $500.
Yeah.
Your wife and the FBI.
Right.
Well, I'll go back to the fishing thing. So like, my dad never fished. Like, I'm like, you know what? I want to learn how to fish. I want to teach my kids how to fish. Like, it's just the man thing to do. So, I started off with like the little crapper boat, and it was fun. We used it all the time, but then, then you need rods, and then it's a pain. I can't really tie knots. So all of a sudden you need multiple rods. So if something happens in the middle, you can just grab another rod, and kids are losing stuff. But that's the cheap part. The expensive part is you pull up, like, okay, we need bait. Well, to try to keep a minnow alive over 8 hours in 90-degree heat, like, you might as well just throw them away, because they're, man, you think race gas goes fast. You try buying minnows and keeping them alive. I mean, I think, and
then you got to fuel the boat.
And then, most of the listeners don't know my children, but my oldest Gage he'll be, say on the 20th, he'll be 15. 6'3", 225 pounds. That's not a cheap kid to feed for 8 hours in a boat.
Right.
So, I mean, we stop at the gas station. By the time you do snacks, bait, and fuel, you spend $300. You go out, you catch 4 to 6, 8 walleyes. Like, I think you could literally eat crab legs every day cheaper. You could have fish and walleyes and boating. Yeah. Like, and then you still have to maintain the thing. Like, bust out another thousands of what the key of a boat is. I mean, I literally think my kids, I'll be able to retire someday, and my kids will have some inheritance because I gave up fishing for racing.
So the point is that no matter what you do, you can spend a lot of money on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I get frustrated when people tell me that stock and super stock racing is too expensive, because no matter what you do, you can spend a lot of money on it. And comparing stock and class racing to bracket racing, here again, you can spend a lot of money bracket racing, and a lot of people do. You go to a big dollar bracket race somewhere, and the average cost of your Mullis dragster with a 632 Beamers or whoever name brand pro line big block Chevy in it, they're well over $100,000 invested in those cars. Now, there can be somebody at that same race with a 25-year-old small block in a $25,000, $20,000 dragster, right?
But how competitive is that? It's like anything. The more competitive you want to be, and maybe there's somebody out there with enough self-control to be like, you know what, I'm just happy with the way my car is, and I'm just going to go out here and have fun. But I don't understand people like that.
My point is, Brian, is you can compete.
Brian's not those people.
Yep.
Yeah, you can compete without spending all that money, no matter what the class is or whatever. So when my wagon, for example, I paid $12,000 for that car. When I bought it, it would barely run the index. I put a used transmission that I traded some parts for in it, and you know, had Brad Van Lant do a set of cylinder heads and built a new short block for it. And that's basically the setup that's in the car today. The car will go 80 under in good air, 65, 70 under. Every other time it's super consistent. I've won in Vegas. I've won in Marion. My son has won in Bakersfield, Vegas, Marion, Brainerd. We've won a lot of money with that car. It's competitive. Everybody thinks it's cool. And we have less than $20,000 invested in that car. I've had a dozen different people drive it. My return on investment, dollar to fund there, is pretty darn good.
How unique is that though in the sport?
I don't feel that it is unique. I feel that there's a lot of people that have done the same thing. And if you want to have a fast car, if you want to have a 69 A stock Camaro aluminum headed 396, that's going to run way under the index. Yeah, you're going to have to spend a bunch of money. But you can investigate a good combo and spend $20,000 to $25,000 and have a competitive car. There's lots of people that do it. And if you want to have a car that goes to Indy and qualifies number one, $140 under, you can investigate and get a obscure combo that'll do that. If you don't care how fast your car is, you can go spend 10 grand on something that'll run 20 under and, hope that you don't get a heads up run.
So you have money.
Different ways to do it.
Right. So you have a dollar reality that you have to spend. There's a barrier. It doesn't necessarily have to be super high, but there's a barrier. How do you get people that don't have a history around cars to see that maybe that'd be something they want to try?
Just do what I did to Brian.
Just poke him or what?
So no, but all you need to do, in my opinion, is expose people to it. Now, obviously, it's not for everyone, right? I mean, Brian and I both do backcountry snowmobiling, and I think it's the greatest thing ever. And if you don't enjoy it, you don't get it. But not everybody's going to enjoy that, or fishing or what have you. But if you expose people to the sport of drag racing and then expose them to class racing, you'll get more people involved. So the young people that are in the sport today, most of them got there because of a family connection. Then there's a few out there that just had a guy down the street and they went to a race with him. I can think of many examples of people like that. So take them to a race, take them for a ride in your car. Brian approached me, I guess how we met, about building a engine for a Charger that he had bought. And we got that done. And then I said, you should take this thing to the racetrack. So Brian drug it to the racetrack and wow, this is really cool. What are all these people doing here? And then he won the lottery and won his Camaro. And I said, hey, that'd make a really good stalker. And then he got to understand class racing and all the neat intricacies of that. And he's hooked. So I really think it's just exposing them to it, Craig. And along those lines of exposing someone to class racing, one thing I think that like the Street Outlaws and that whole thing that's been wildly successful over the last 10, 12 years, right? What do those guys do different than your average bracket racer or class racer doesn't do? Those guys are really good at self-promoting, right? Now, you might look at them and think, what's this idiot doing, blabbing on TV, talking smack, whatever. But that's what I think class racers could do a better job of. We're also worried about hurting somebody's feelings or looking like a fool, but get out there and let the community that you live in know what you're doing, and I guarantee they're going to be interested. And then you'll get a young person that'll come up to you and want to go do a race. I'm Drayton, North Dakota, a town of 1,200 people, 5 miles from my house where I live up here in the middle of nowhere. People have heard that there's this guy that moved up there that races a little bit, and I've had some people ask me about it and stuff, and they're having a community car show on Main Street this Thursday night, and I'm going to haul my cars to town and display them and talk to people about class racing.
Well, it's like the days of the hero card, right? Like
exactly.
Al Corda, he still carries hero cards with him. Name on the side of the car, like old school.
And it's like what Bobby does with his flyers that explain class racing. So if we do nothing, Craig, and just sit back and whine that, oh, nobody's into racing, it's the end of the world, and the sport's going to die pretty soon. They were saying the same thing in the 70s. They were saying the same thing in the 80s. But we just need to do a little bit to promote the sport, doing things like Brian's doing. Like, hey, what's a podcast? Maybe I should start a podcast. I don't really know nothing about class racing, but I'm going to go on and talk about it with everybody, right?
You want to talk about a good way to learn about it, though. And it's actually amazing how much feedback we get of people like, that are, we've had several emails like, I don't race yet, but I love your podcast and I don't miss an episode.
Really?
It's definitely reaching people out there that are thinking about buying cars and asking about combinations and that's pretty cool.
And the community will help people looking to get into it. And it's real important that people don't be ashamed to ask lots of questions. I mean, that's what I did. I bracket raced for, 20 years and 12 years ago or something like that. Now, 14 years ago, probably, I wanted to get into class racing. And I asked lots and lots of questions, and lots and lots of people have helped me, and I still ask lots and lots of questions. So if it wasn't for people like, Brad Van Lant and Matt Steen and Doug and Lynn Ingalls and the list goes on and on and on, of the people that Larry Gilly, the people that have helped me and taught me about this class, and I continue to learn. So for sure, ask lots of questions, because one thing I do see people do is they spend money. I don't want to say foolishly or wrong or whatever, but they go and spend a chunk of money that they wouldn't have had to.
So is that just due to lack of proper marketing in the sport? Like,
I believe.
So people don't know what they actually need.
Right. Yep.
There's a lot of different mindsets out there too, right? Like people are always looking for the next gimmick or the next little.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's different levels, right? Like you have the guy that's starting, like to me, when I got my car, I'm like, I want something I can bracket race, and I can go to a few of these stock limiter races if I want to, right? Like go to the MCR race, or I can still bracket race whenever I want to go. Well, then it's kind of transitioned. Like I just want to go down the track and beat people, whether it's in a class or whether it's a bracket. I don't really care. And people are like, oh, I can't believe you would bracket race your stalker. I'm like, it's the best bracket car ever. Like, look at your wagon. Look at the money you spent on that wagon compared to what the average bracket guy that's probably just middle of the road, like you're in the par. Like they're going to spend the same amount of money. Now, people always chasing the next thing and wanting to spend money because they have it. Yeah, we've got those in stock too. But like in my operation, I have a pretty tight budget. So what can I do to get the best return on my buck, right? Like I can't get 650 horsepower. It's not in my budget. But I can work on my reaction times, or I can work on strategies on driving and try to get better that way. And to your point, I can put money in myself and my driving abilities, my reaction times cheaper than I can add 20 horsepower to my car. I had 20 horsepower to my car and I'm 60s and 70s all day. It ain't gonna matter.
Right. And there's three things to class racing, right? We've got the cars. So if you're a natural car guy or not, right? But that's something that can attract people to the sport, Craig, right? They're just they're into muscle cars, or it's a young person and he's decided he wants a drag pack Challenger. Sorry, Brian, Copo Camaro. Sorry, Bobby, Cobra Jet Mustang. but whatever. And oh, wait a minute, I can race this car in this class here, and I can race at national events with John Ford. So people could get into it because of the cars, or they get into it because of the muscle car thing. And then, like Brian said, there's the competition. So in class racing, we have all the benefits of the fact that it's a car show with these different old and new cars. And then the competition aspect is the same as racing in the $1 million final of a big dollar bracket race or whatever the case may be, or racing at your local track where the competition is just as tough there as anywhere, but you got to hit the tree, you got to drive the stripe, you've got to have a strategy. All that is there. So that's a thing that can attract people to it. And then the biggest piece to attract people to drag racing specifically, class racing specifically, is the people. And so, Craig, you've been exposed to it a little bit. Brian, I think it's one of the things that really exposed you to it. And me personally, I mean, that's it. I'm an empty nester now. My kids are grown and gone, and they still get to play with me at the racetrack some. But I mean, the racetrack is my family, and it's the circle that I travel in. It's who I talk to. It's my friends, and it's a wonderful environment. So, as something you can do as a family, as something you can do with your friends. So it's all about the people for sure.
So I almost asked a stupid question. If you had to move to a different area, would you still race without your family? But it's such an inclusive group. Your family is there even if you don't know them yet.
Like, I'm the poster child for that, Brian. I picked up, sold, and gave away pretty much everything I own. Picked up my 2 race cars, and like the Beverly Hillbillies, I had 2 snowmobiles on a sled deck in the back of my pickup and 2 race cars in a trailer, and we went to the desert, right? We went to the mountains of Arizona, me and my 3 teenage kids. And I had read about and vaguely knew a few West Coast racers. We rolled into Bakersfield, California on January 20th of like 2014. And, a few people come up and said, introduced themselves because I had talked to them on Class Racer or on Facebook or whatever. And, I was welcomed into the family. Now, maybe not so much by Leo Glassbrenner right away because my 16-year-old kid beat him in the final of that race, but that's another story, Leo. But, we got lucky enough to win that race. I met the Mandelas there. I met Johnny Gray there, and people that I have now become lifelong friends with that I could pick up the phone and they would do anything for me. Then I started traveling around the West Coast and met Larry Gilly and Andy Kimball and Dennis Elvey and this whole community now that they're some of my closest friends.
I still like your Vegas
because I'm a racer.
I still like your first trip to Vegas story.
Yeah, I don't know if that one's
sleeping in the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got lost.
Open trailer.
I didn't realize you could just stay on the interstate to get to the racetrack.
So, oh no.
So I drove through downtown Vegas in my white diesel pickup at like 3:00 in the morning with the tomato on the trailer, and I ended up in some places I probably shouldn't have been and had to back up a city block to get out of there. I gave up and I found the racetrack, parked in front of the gate, went to sleep in the back of the pickup, and it was a bracket race. I was racing my stalker at. That's the first race that I met the Irvings, John and John Irving at. But had a great time. It's the first time I met Paul Wong. But I got lucky and went on and I won that bracket race after sleeping in my pickup in the parking lot. But there again, I was made to feel welcome and part of the racing family and the people, and it was super fun.
They're like, this guy's so crazy. We have to friend him because we don't want him as our enemy.
They're talking about me?
Yeah. We got to get this guy into the family. Everybody needs that crazy uncle,
that would be me, the crazy uncle.
Tyler from Facebook said that Gene Mosbeck pushed him to turn his street strip car into a stalker.
Yeah, there's
had some spare parts for that, which is.
I'm assuming that's Tyler Beebe, Craig.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I can see it on there. There's a great. Tyler's a phenomenal bracket racer. His dad's a car guy and a racer, and Gene's like, hey, why don't you turn this thing into a stalker?
So. The end of wagon driver.
So and he's a wagon driver. And getting back to the cost of the sport,
mm-hmm.
I was looking last night. There's a stock eliminator car for sale on the internet. It's not the fastest class car, but it's for sale for $9,000. Now, anybody that's going to go bracket racing is going to spend $9,000, right? So you could go buy that car. There's several fairly fast Novas, Dusters, middle class cars that for sale for $20,000-$25,000. There's some really fast middle class cars out there for sale for $30,000. And if you want, Bill Rink, who unfortunately passed away here, his car's for sale. That car's got the best of everything in it. It's a $120 under super stock car, and you can buy that car for $40,000. So don't tell me you got to spend too much money to go bracket racing or to go class racing. You can do it. It's just what level do you want to do it at?
So is it important then to get some of the established participants, racers, in the sport to try? I was supposed to say try harder, but maybe to go after some of these younger people? Is that going to be a way to kickstart this campaign, shall we say, to try to get more new blood?
I do think the established racers could do a better job of promoting. Don't be ashamed to promote yourself, what your hard work and lifelong dedication to a sport has afforded you the opportunity to do, the equipment that you have, the knowledge that you have. So, we make fun of going back again to the street outlaws, but some of those guys acting like fools, if you will, on TV or whatever. But, those guys are traveling around the country racing and have a huge following because they promoted themselves. So I think it's okay to, like I said, go ahead and talk a little smack, jump up and down, act like a fool a little bit. Don't be ashamed to put yourself out there on social media. Do things within your community. Take your car to a car show. Drive your stinking stalker 6 blocks down to the frickin' get an ice cream cone on a Wednesday afternoon with some mufflers on it. There's several guys on the East Coast that do that. Because all we have to do, Craig, is expose people to this sport. And like I said, it's not going to be for everybody, but if we did a better job of exposing people to it and then helping them, we'd have more participants than we could handle.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of a cross between Street Outlaws and Grumpy Old Men would be the.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
that would be the
go hang
Grumpy
around
Old
Dennis,
Outlaws.
Go hang around Dennis Elby's pit and listen to him tell stories. Go hang around with Lynn and Doug when they're working on their cars and getting them faster and they're beautiful. I mean, it's all you got to do. And if we could get everyone to get exposed to that, the hook would be set.
Is there secrecy in, do people have an idea? And again, because I'm new to this thing, is there an understanding or a sentiment that I can't share my info because you might take it?
There is some of that, Craig.
Is that appropriate?
Again, this is just my opinion.
Yep.
And so I may or may not be right. But there absolutely is some secrecy with some stuff.
Is that appropriate?
When it comes to, combinations and making them fast, that is not as prevalent, in my opinion, as it was 20 years ago.
Okay.
For sure, because this stuff has been getting scienced out for 30, 40 years for the most part. But, Brian is not going to divulge, everything that got done to his cylinder heads here over the last year. And I wouldn't blame him, and there's a few little things that I'm probably not going to divulge, but I would help anybody tell them everything I can, what I think they should do, because they're not going to be at that level right away. If they are, then I'm for sure not going to tell them.
But doesn't that help with the competition though? If more people kind of come up together.
Right. But if I got somebody like Tyler Beebe, who's got a Duster that's running 25 under, I'm going to help him however I can. Right. I'll go work on his carburetor and I'll take the carburetor off the wagon apart and show him what we've got done to it so we can get that one to leave better. Whatever it takes. And I say that there's things I wouldn't tell anybody. That's probably not true, because if you can't tell, I kind of like to talk. But For sure. And anybody, even the guys that are real concerned about going fast, that Steve, I don't want to speak for anybody, but as an example, Steve Wan, who builds a whole bunch of really fast class cars, right? Or Paul Wong or whoever. They absolutely, people come up to them and ask them questions and they help them all the time. Like I said, are they going to divulge the innermost secrets?
Right.
No, but they're going to help somebody get their car go faster. I've witnessed them do it. So they're going to help people not spend money in the wrong places, right? Because that's what I mean by new people to the sport asking questions. Because someone can come into the sport, and I think Brian will admit that he has probably spent money that he didn't need to spend at times. So help people to do that, to get their car to be faster.
So do you think it would be valuable to somehow figure out how to make that known, that asking questions is actually encouraged? If you're new to this thing, come ask questions. No one's going to be upset at you. Now, you may not learn, get all the ins and outs, but ask the question.
Yeah. And, I think there's been threads on Class Racer, where people have posted on there, hey, I'm new to the sport, and bunches of people went on there and said, hey, ask questions, whatever, So, but I think that comes back, Craig, to that self-promotion.
Yeah.
If people are looking up to you or perceive you as knowing what the heck you're talking about, they're probably gonna but they're not as scared of you because you're not some crabby old guy hiding in your effing motorhome, right?
Well, there is
talking about your car.
There is good and bad too with that. So like with my car, there's way better cars or combinations that I could have got into. It probably would have been less expensive per se, but I also like the fact that it's been scienced out. Like my first call after I got that car was Al Corda, the grandfather of that car. Like he put a bunch of horsepower on that thing himself.
And did he slam the phone down on you and say, stop talking to me?
No, we had 2-hour conversations every time I would call him. Now I had to get his number and I had to call him, and it was scary talk, but now it's like Uncle Al, right? Like he's not the most approachable guy in person, but you know what? I talked to that guy on the phone for days before I ever met him, and he was always helpful and always gave me points. Like I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I just wanted to talk to somebody that knew how to make the wheel roll, and then tweak from there. But now there's also bad influences like John McLaughlin. Put a stick in it. Like
your going fast problems would be over.
You don't want to listen to everything they tell you, because you can make things harder.
Craig, real quick, I think that's a great point. Brian did call Al Corda. Al Corda, multi-time world champion, and I've gotten to know Al. I'm lucky enough over the last few years, I've gotten to race with him. He's a great competitor, super great guy. He's always been very nice to me. And I remember an early morning conversation I had with him for an hour at Marion once, and it was just wonderful. But in person, Al is not the most outgoing guy, right? And so, but Brian took the initiative to pick up the phone and call him and develop a relationship and got bunches of information from him. So guys like Al and those established people in the sport, all of us need to do a better job of promoting ourselves and our sport.
Yeah.
And for the record, he did say when I told him I wanted to go fast, he said, "We'll put a stick in that thing."
Al Corda said that?
Yep. Why don't you have a stick in there yet? Like,
wow. Dan Grimes says that, unless someone's in the middle or between rounds, most guys will talk to you. And that's one thing I did notice just at the one race I was at with Brian.
You want to be.
Unless you're focused and getting, on going to the line, that makes sense. I mean, as a new person, you certainly don't want to go interrupt someone's flow.
Yep. No, you want to be respectful. I've had this happen many times, but I just had it happen at Rock Falls. It's warm out and I'm going into the quarterfinals or whatever it was. And some people come by and I was busy and head down, but I greeted them. I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And they started to ask some questions, and I said, "Hey, I'm getting ready to go up." I said, "Can you stop back, after I'm done with competition today?" And they said, "Oh yeah, that'd be great." And they did stop back over, and I spent a half hour with them and showing them the car and put them in the car, and it was great. So
that's cool.
Yep.
You didn't give them the "get out of here, scram."
kids.
Nope.
Put out a little lawn that you can protect.
Yellow tape.
Right.
He's got a little sign that says clutch tuning in progress. Do not enter.
It looks like he's sleeping in there.
No, I really kind of got that thing dialed in, Brian. I haven't been touching it.
Hey, mommy, did that guy's car run him over? His feet are always sticking out from under it.
I guess it's going to take time to change that perception, Craig.
Yeah.
The perception of me laying underneath my car all the time.
Awesome.
But I think that is key, is like just plugging into the right, and you don't really know the right people, but I mean, as racers, if we do a better job of engaging the people that walk by and talking to them and answering questions, it'll take away some of that.
Well, I think that's really it, because it's one thing to, like if you had the initiative and took it to go talk to Al, not everyone may have that same gumption. So is there a way to encourage those that are in the sport, you guys that are out there, to kind of be deliberately available to meet the new people? And maybe it's just deliberately going finding new people you don't know and having that conversation just to check in and say, hey, how are you? Who are you? So is this a two-way street to really build this thing?
Absolutely it is, I think.
Well, and I'd be, looking at a bigger, a wider view, would you per se? I got into, John gave me this great idea to, let's make that a stalker. Well, that's crazy. And yes, to go out and buy a new stock eliminator motor was not in my budget. Like crazy. Like it was scary. But yet,
I did not tell him to do that.
For
the record.
Talking to Al, he had components.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saved probably for 50% of what I would have spent going and buying everything new.
Yeah.
I got started. And you know what? That first year and a half was brutal. Like, trying to figure out how to make the car go down the track and reaction times and what's air pressure and what's launch RPM. Like there was a whole, like sitting in my 68 Charger going down the track or my brother's Duster. It was hard not to go to the final in that thing. And then all of a sudden you're in a whole different animal. And I'm glad that if I would have spent all that money up front, I don't know that I would still be doing it. There's a lot of sorting out suspension and just how many yellow lights go before it goes green and all that crap that I had to figure out the first year and a half. And, Dan Weiss was nice enough. I'm struggling one day at Rock Falls and he's like, you need to go down the track 50 times in this car before it'll even start to make sense. And that's still probably one of the top 5 pieces of info somebody ever gave me that really helped.
Right. You could have went out, to your point, Brian, you could have went out and spent a bunch of money right away and got frustrated and quit.
Yep.
Right. And you didn't do that. You spent a little bit of money, went out, got exposed, figured out how to drive the car, how to tune the car, how to race, and started working on that harder, and then decided you wanted to go a little faster and invested some money. So, yeah.
And it's a lot easier to go that route than spend all the money and have something that doesn't work. Or, maybe there's people out there that can not have success and still enjoy it, but I don't. That's not me. Like, I want to strive for perfection, and it's easier to start that way than just, you go write a check for 120 grand, you don't make it out of the first round for 10, 12 races. Yeah, I'm going to probably go back to fishing.
Yeah. No, and I think everybody should grow into it a little bit, because not only will it be more fun for you, but it'll be more rewarding when you do achieve goals. It's a whole bunch of fun winning in a car that you shouldn't win in, right?
It's really fun beating people that you have no reason to beat.
Exactly. Yep. That's what it's all about for me.
I feel like David versus Goliath every time I pull up. Like, oh my gosh, that's Al Corda, who I still haven't beat, but that's coming. Jason DeForest, Mike Mans, like you're pulling up against, Chris Knutz. There's so many racers that we see at every MCR race that I'm still kind of a fanboy. Like, oh boy, I have to really rip off a good run here because these guys are good.
Yeah, there's good racers everywhere you go. So, like I said, in the Midwest class racers here, there's so many good guys, but it's that way everywhere. Every region you go to, it's the same thing. And I feel the level of competition is the same there as a divisional race or whatever. So,
but I think the other thing too is like, so we're talking grassroots and we're talking MCR, which you could argue isn't small. I mean, I think we're kind of, you know, every association across the country looks to MCRs. I mean, we're kind of the king of the associations. I mean, we have a good car turnout. People are building cars just to race, you know, the MCR with the MCR guys. Like, but I think what they're missing is what we're building with Midwest class racers is spilling off into the NHRA. NHRA isn't spilling into MCR. MCR is spilling into NHRA.
To your point with the MCR specifically, Brian, yeah, like for I convinced you to make your car a stocker so you could go to Marion and race 2 races in a weekend for $100 entry each day and a chance to win $2,000. Why, if you just want to go bracket racing, fine, but why wouldn't you race the car in this class? You got exposed to it, and hey, I can go race this thing at Brainerd in a divisional race, and then I can go race somewhere at a national event, in front of a big crowd and with John Force and whatever. So I mean, yeah, that's how people are going to get into the sport. And I agree with you that Midwest, there's definitely people. There's not people leaving NHRA to come race Midwest class racers necessarily per se, but there are people building cars to race in Midwest class racers that are then getting exposed to NHRA.
Do you think though, I mean, to me, the quotas are what's limiting the people that come to NHRA. I mean, like Brainerd's full. Brainerd is 100% full right now.
Yeah, I don't completely agree with that, Brian. I don't agree with quotas per se, but there are races. A lot of you have some races, Gainesville, whatever that are going to fill and overfill. Brainerd, those type of places. But there's some races that don't get to quota, and the quota thing, it isn't necessarily the quotas that are holding it back. I don't think. I think that there's people not going to races in this economy and this culture right now for multitudes of reasons. But even prior to that, people complained about that a lot, but then they didn't put their money where their mouth was and drive to the race. So, but with quotas specifically, in my opinion, I understand why there needs to be quotas at some facilities and that kind of thing, but there's no reason why every race, in my opinion, couldn't have a 64 car field, and we couldn't let 80 cars enter, and so that you would have 80 people, whatever the number is that they feel they need to limit it to for parking reasons, but they can have a 6-round race with 64 cars no matter what. So I don't understand. Like, I think Brainerd, the quota is 55. What's that about? There's plenty of room there. It doesn't take any more time. It's not another round to let it be 64 cars and
there's class there.
Right. Let 80, 85 people give you your money and have a qualified field. It should be that way at every race, in my opinion.
Well, and how much is that going to step up qualifying? Like, how much is that going to help drive the sport?
Yes. Well, and then it helps the AHFS work as it's designed, yada yada yada.
Do you think Indy's going to fill?
Well, I'm an optimist, so I do think so. I'm planning on going to Indy for the first time in my life. I think my car, I think I can qualify there now. So I do think it'll fill. It's 150 in stock. I don't know. Time will tell. What's it at right now?
That's a good question.
And that's one other point I wanted to bring up too, Craig. You're talking about getting new people into the sport and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then people complain, well, I'm not going to go to this race because I can't qualify. Like, that's part of the point of class racing, right? It's not supposed to be easy. Like not everybody gets a trophy.
What?
So, it's true.
That's counterculture right now.
I know, and I'm not going to get into political, but because we'll really go off the rails. But
it's 3-hour long show.
Right. The point is that class racing, it's not supposed to be easy, right? So I bracket raced. I got to the point where I felt I could do that consistently, and then I stepped up to class racing, and then my car was a 20 under car when I started, and I kept working on it, and now it's an 80 under car, and I didn't win a stock race for the first couple of years. I raced in stock, and I kept working on getting my car working correctly in my driving, and now I have the opportunity where I can be competitive at times. So it's not supposed to be easy. So any Joel Blow shouldn't be able to go buy a car and show up at Indy and qualify, right? He should have to, and if he can afford to spend the money to do that, fine. But it sure means a lot more, in my opinion, for people that have to put in the time and the effort.
Yeah.
And then it's rewarding. So it's not supposed to be a layup. Brian isn't supposed to win the lottery and get this Camaro and instantly have a car that'll go $110 under and go out and win class everywhere he goes.
That would have been so much better.
No, it wouldn't have. When you actually do win class for the first time, it'll mean a lot more to you. I am new, quote unquote, to class racing, and I have only competed for class maybe 3-4 times, and I've never won class yet. I'm hopefully going to have the opportunity to do it at Brainerd again this year, and hopefully I can have better results than in the past. But I'm going to keep working on my stuff, and when I do finally win, it'll be really rewarding.
Yeah.
But I will say though, I would not have spent the time to sort out my suspension or driving. Like I would not have spent. I spent a lot of time just trying to drive better, like whether it's reaction times and strategy and execution. Like if I would have hopped in a fast car, I could have skipped some of that and got lucky and maybe been happy. Where now, like those are to me that if you can't, it's all about getting off the line and executing your plan. That's utmost. Like the car will do its own thing.
And you'll never stop learning there, Brian. I'm been racing the same kind of car for 30 some years, and I am still learning stuff about what it likes as far as the suspension and stuff goes.
So July 16 and 17. Did you say there may be something coming in Friday, 15th? Is that right?
I think there might be a gambler's race on Friday. Yep.
So that is at the Brainerd International Raceway in Brainerd, Minnesota. The Paul Bunyan Classic, the 9th annual.
Yep. Looks like it's going to be great weather.
Yeah.
No reason that we shouldn't get 100 cars there. There's lots of stock, super stock cars in the area. It's a great payout at a world-class facility. So no excuses. Get out there and get your car to the track.
And then the next weekend, 23-24, is in Ottawa. The stock, super stock combo. So, and Brian is crossing his fingers that he'll be.
I have a lot of work to do this weekend.
You do. Well, John, we appreciate you taking the time to bask in that room you're in and chat with us. In
a few months here, hopefully you can have me back on if I didn't ruin my welcome here by rattling on.
Well, we'll just do it live up there.
We'll do it live from the toy shop. You guys need to come up. I'd love to show you around.
Absolutely. It'd be fantastic. Any last thoughts?
Get out there in your community and promote our sport and get your butt to the racetrack.
Fantastic. Cool. Brian, you have anything you want to say?
Not really.
Nothing.
That was good. Like I'm
raring to go.
Yeah, I got work to do.
Indeed. ClassRacingToday.com. ClassRacingToday@gmail.com. If you have any questions, remember, there's a few ways you can help support the show. One of the best ways you can do it is by telling more people to listen. And going to YouTube, subscribe, click on the notification bell, share it out over your social media platforms. Also, that's another way. Or if you want to monetarily support the show, you choose the value you get out of it. Go to ClassRacingToday.com/donate. and you decide what it's worth to you, what the value is. $1, $10, $1,000, $50,000. Anything is much appreciated and welcome. Thanks a lot for hanging out with us. We will see you again next time. This is Class Racing Today. Have a great week. See you later.